Good evening, everyone. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be here talking to all of you at the first ever virtual Bangalore Tech Summit. I mean, kudos to Karnataka government and to the entire team that worked so hard and round the clock over the last few months to pull together such a fabulous platform that is bringing all of us together, even in these times, to have these much needed and I think extremely important conversations about this so called next normal or the future. You know, the one thing, whenever we talk about the next normal, the one thing I do know about the future is that the future does not get created by any unknown force out there. There is no magic to it, for sure. Much as we would like it to happen, there is no magic to the future. The future will get created based on the actions you and I take today. And I think the $1 million question that we have to ask ourselves is, are we doing enough to ensure that we create a future that is better than the past? Yes, we all, right now, the lockdown and, isolation and social distancing, I know we are all dying to get back to the past. But when you take a moment to really think about it, I don't want to get back to the past. There were several things about the past that I did not like. And I believe that we do have that tremendous opportunity being served to us on a silver platter to take the right steps to correct those wrongs. You know, I'm talking about things like climate change. Did we do enough to address climate change? Can we make a change today as we get into this, as we create this new future? Did we do enough to address the perpetual problems of diversity and inclusion? Can we create a future that is truly inclusive? Can we take the right steps today rather than just talk about it? Did we do enough to build a sustainable future? I think this is that moment in time when we really have to use the time well to ask ourselves these hard questions and figure out what are those changes that you and I have to make to ensure that we create a future that is greener, that is more inclusive, that is more sustainable. And this is our opportunity. If, and this one I strongly believe is for us to lose. If we don't act, this is for us to lose. So the critical question ahead of me is, what do we have to do to ensure that we just don't do better in the future, but we create a better future? And this is the debate or discussion that I'm having with a lot of the leaders in the tech industry. And as we talk about the future and what changes are needed, I think it's also important to understand what are some of those factors that's not going to be in your control. What are some of those factors that you're going to be forced to deal with as you get into this next normal? And I think there are three things that we will be forced to deal with, at least in the next few years, the foreseeable future. I mean, the first is we've all talked about VUCA and how life is volatile. I think what the pandemic has shown us is we had only seen a trailer. We are entering a world which I believe is going to be VUCA on steroids. It's going to be VUCA plus plus. Volatility, crisis, these are going to be the norm. And we'll have to figure out that we're building processes that are strong enough, foundations that are strong enough to deal with this ever-changing world. The world is going to be hyper digital. I mean, if there's one thing that the pandemic has taught us, is that technology is and essential to how we work, to how we play, how we attain, how we shop, how the legalization that the pandemic has brought about across sectors, manufacturing, retail, e-commerce, travel, etc., has shown us that there are tremendous benefits when it's done right. So I do not believe that we are going to walk away from it anytime soon. And lastly, the last point is one that usually causes a lot of heartburn and debate. But I do strongly believe that for the next few years, the world is going to be largely contactless. Whether you say contactless or less contact, but it's going to be one of those two. Yes, we are hopefully going to have a vaccine soon, but a vaccine is not the magic. A very strong vaccination distribution program is the magic. So we will need that. I'm hoping that too will happen. And hopefully, all of us will be able to get the vaccine maybe a year down the line. But even then, I strongly believe that we are not going to go back to the old world that we had. The world is going to be a little wary. It's going to continue to be a little more less contact than it used to be. So these are few of the things that is happening thanks to the pandemic that we actually cannot control or cannot stop. And I think it's important to understand what this means for us as we reimagine our industries, our businesses, and what it means for our businesses. When you think about the technology industry has been completely reimagined thanks to COVID. It had already, the process had started, but I think COVID has just accelerated the process of reimagination, reinvention. Today, when I think about the industry, I don't think of it as the back end or the front end or services or products or whatever else you had out there. When I think of the technology industry, I think of an industry that is critical for building your competitive differentiation or advantage. I think of an industry that is going to be key for accelerating your business strategies, your business transformation. I think of an industry that, or rather, I think of technology, and it's not just our industry, but technology at large, as one of the most powerful equalizers created by mankind, created by humankind, provided we use it right. And I think of technology and the industry as being one of the greatest disruptors to this world. I think technology is going to disrupt everything about our lives, everything about how we do business. And we have to ensure that as we are going through the process of this disruption, we are able to leverage the right building blocks, the differentiators that will add to our competitive advantage so that we can come out of this pandemic, we can come out of the transformation stronger than before and with stronger competitive advantage. And that's what I want to talk about next. What does it take to lead in the new norm? The one thing I do know is that the old playbook, the old strategy is not going to suffice anymore. Leading in the new norm with all the changes that's happening around us will require a new playbook. And what I want to use the next few minutes for is talk a little bit about some of these core differentiators that I believe is going to be critical for us to figure out as we build our new playbooks for the business, for our companies, for our businesses, and also as government, as you build your new playbook for strengthening Karnataka's lead, Karnataka's competitive advantage in this era of hyper digital, in this hyper digital era. What are some of the things that the government has to do different to ensure that it strengthens its lead? So the first thing I want to start with is something we always talk about. We've always talked about it. We've always talked about trust being important. But I think trust is going to become the key currency of a world that is hyper digital and largely contactless. Trust is going to be the factor on which decisions are going to be made. And just think about it today. Your clients will decide if they want to work with you or not, if they trust you enough to do the right thing, to keep business continuity going, if they trust you enough to take the right steps to ensure that your employees are kept safe when they come to work, or your employees are able to work in a secure environment when they are working from home so that your client's business does not get compromised or does not get disrupted. Your employees will come back to work only if they trust you enough to do the right thing. You are going to engage with your employees. Your entire engagement model with your employees is now trust based. Gone are the days when you can monitor how many hours they worked and what exactly were they doing every hour of the day. You now have to trust them to do the right thing. And you have to hope that they are not going to misuse their trust. So trust is completely changing the way we thought about engagements, the way we thought about partnerships. And I think this is tremendous opportunity to build trust as a core differentiator for not just businesses, but even governments. The Karnataka government has always been a very trustworthy partner to the IT industry. And I think the moment the pandemic was the stress test for that trust, because overnight we had to move 98% of our employees to work from home. We had to move assets, and we needed the government to do the right thing. So we were able to take these steps to keep our employees safe and keep our businesses running, to keep our clients' businesses running. And boy, did the government deliver. I do want to take this opportunity to say a heartfelt thank you to the Karnataka government for not letting that trust down, for taking the right steps. Yes, it took there were hassles, there were a few hiccups along the way, but that was expected. We were moving over 4 million people to work from home. It's not a joke. It was absolutely expected. But the government did not let us down. And I think that's what shows the importance of trust. And going forward, as more and more companies are looking at Karnataka or look as a hub for innovation, hub for manufacturing, I think one of the first things they're going to think about is how much can they trust the government to do the right thing. And therefore, it's going to be extremely important to build trust as a competitive advantage. If you're seen as more trustworthy than your competition, you win half the battle today. And that's the reality of the next normal that we are rapidly going into. The second core differentiator I want to talk about is talent. Today, businesses will go where talent is, period. Um, Technology, there's this fear that technology is going to cause job losses. Technology is not causing job losses, but technology is causing significant job displacements, which means that we require people with newer skills. We require people with not just technical skills, but excellent communication skills, excellent program management skills, design thinking, creativity, and if possible, domain expertise. We are in the age of trilinguals. We need all three to come together for that perfect technology employee, for that ideal technology employee. And guess what? It's extremely difficult to find, forget the perfect technology employee for today's world, but good enough technology employees for today's world. Even when you look at just a mix of technical skills and professional skills, even that's a challenge. So what are businesses looking for? Businesses are looking for employees with trainable mindsets. We are looking at education systems to create that hunger for lifelong learning in employees above all. Because if that exists, then we can continue to train these employees for relevance as we absorb them into the companies. And I think businesses will go where they find the talent, given that there's a huge shortage of the right talent, right digital talent across the world. And I think this is a tremendous opportunity for Karnataka to strengthen its competitive advantage by focusing on building the foundations for developing the right talent. Um, if the Karnataka education system can focus on one thing, yes, build a strong foundation in math skills, build strong communication foundation, build a strong foundation to these basic requirements. But above all, if you can ignite in every student the hunger to learn, you can ignite in every student curiosity and that desire to solve problems, you are going to be the state that everyone is going to look at when they are trying to figure out where they should go to get the right talent for them, their business. And I think this is a huge differentiator that we have. The third thing I want to talk about is innovation. The pandemic has also changed how we see innovation. Innovation's no more about cool technology. Sure, cool technology is still exciting. I won't disagree. But just cool technology is not enough. Innovation is today about impact. Innovation today is about problem solving. The success or the magnitude of the innovation is defined by how big a problem are you able to solve. So what we are looking at as an industry and what companies are looking at when we think about the innovation landscape, we're looking at where does the best ecosystem exist, because innovation is about co-creation. Who has a stronger startup ecosystem? Where will it be really easy to take our innovations from lab to market, from a regulatory framework, a market access? Where's it easiest to take our innovations to scale? Where's it easiest for to ensure that our innovations can result in real impact? And again, as companies think through these things to build their competitive advantage, I think governments also have to start thinking about how do they enable companies make a difference with their innovation. I think government has to move from, you know, the playing the role of funding innovation to becoming a consumer of innovation. Make sure that you can take the innovation that industry is creating and ensure that it impacts billions of Indians. I think that is the biggest role that government can play in the innovation landscape. And a state that builds a playbook to do that will definitely build its own competitive advantage. The fourth area I want to talk about is inclusion and ethics. A lot is said about inclusion. I think there's one big change needed. Inclusion and ethics, responsible use of technology, cannot be afterthoughts. And they absolutely cannot be afterthoughts in this hyper digital world that we are entering into. They have to be built into the design strategy. They have to become CEO priorities. And it's, from a government perspective, there are two things I would point out. One, as you develop Karnataka as a talent hub, are you ensuring that Karnataka has a very diverse talent to offer to the industry? That'll be a huge advantage that you can offer. We need women data scientists above all. I think it is so important for us to be able to find women in tech in abundance, and if Karnataka can become that state where a company is able to get good quality women in technology, then we are going to look very seriously at Karnataka as a hub for innovation. I think this is going to be absolutely critical. Secondly, with remote working coming into play, a lot of our employees have gone back to their hometowns. They're working out of smaller cities, smaller villages. So once again, is Karnataka doing enough to build a truly inclusive framework so that all the development work that is happening, be it talent development or whatever, is not just happening in Bangalore, but it is happening beyond Bangalore? I think that's extremely important point for the government to think through. And last but not the least, responsible use of technology, something I'm absolutely passionate about. I think this will define how history will look back on this industry. Did we use technology to help human beings, or did we use technology to create more harm? And I think this is our moment to figure out how do we build the right framework to ensure that whatever we do as an industry, the technology that we create, the technology that gets used for the betterment of humankind. And as the industry thinks through the framework, I think there's tremendous opportunity for the government to work with the industry and create a framework for responsible, ethical use of technology. No government has figured this out. Everybody's thinking about it, everyone's talking about it, no one has figured it out. Once again, this is an opportunity for the Karnataka government to take the lead. Being the home of technology industry in India, I honestly believe you have to take the lead. You have to show the way how technology can help human beings and how responsible use of technology can have a huge impact on the improvement of lives. And I really look forward to working with the government to ensure that we turn this into a reality. And last but not the least, I think the fifth building block or differentiator that I want to talk about is agility and resilience. These are today must haves for sustainability. They're not nice to have, they're must haves. You can do everything I talked about till now, but if somebody else does it faster and better than you, that person wins. So it's not just about having the right playbook, it's about being the fastest. It's about being the most resilient. And I think this is again where ease of doing business becomes so important from a government's point of view. Are you is the Karnataka government doing enough to ensure that Karnataka becomes the state where companies can be their best when it comes to agility and resilience? The company is able to move fast. Our company is able to fail fast. I mean, that is something we often ignore, but that is such an important part of doing business in this new normal. Failure is bound to happen, but we can't let that stop us. We have to be able to recover from it really quickly and move on. And does the regulation system allow us to do that? And these are some of the things that the government should be thinking about when they are thinking about building their competitive advantage or their competitive leadership playbook. I've only covered a few of the core differentiators. I'm sure there's many more out there that one has to think about. But I do believe that trust, talent, people first innovation, uh, inclusion, ethics, agility, resilience is an absolute must for not just survival, but success in this hyper digital, contactless VUCA world that we are rapidly getting into. And it's not just for businesses. It also holds true for governments. We all have the opportunity to reinvent for success in the next normal. We all have the opportunity to build our competitive advantage by bringing together these core differentiators, orchestrating them together for the highest impact. And whoever does it the best, whoever does it the fastest, is going to win, whether it's in business or it's in government. And this is where I would urge. I know the tech industry is taking this very seriously, and I know that we're working a lot with the tech industry to build out the framework for this new playbook and what is required for success in the next norm, for leading in the next norm. And I would urge the government to also look at this as an opportunity to strengthen your own competitive advantage by focusing on a few of these uh, factors which are going to be so important for the industry's success in the next normal. We at NASCOM have dared to dream big. Our dream is that when the world thinks digital, the world will think India. My ask to the Karnataka government is when the world thinks digital and the world thinks India, we should do enough so that the world also thinks Karnataka. Thank you very much. It was such a pleasure talking to you and wish you all the best for a very, very successful conference. Thank you.